A warm welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week on the program, with the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar confirmed dead, we're taking reactions from around the world, and especially in the Middle East, plus delving into who Yahya Sinwar was and his strategic role in Hamas. My conversation on the topic is with the team lead at Next Year SPD, an organization that aims to improve human security, peace, and sustainable development in Africa to achieve stability and prosperity. Dr. Unu Moko has spoken on many issues surrounding security in many parts of the world, with a preference to global terrorism. That's Diplomatic Channel in a wrap. Let's check out other discussions in diplomatic circles, and we'll be right back.
The Nigerians in Diaspora community is set to hold the 7th edition of its Nigeria Investment Summit, a consistent key platform for the Nigerian diaspora to play a pivotal role in the country's economic growth and development. This was emphasized by the chairman and CEO of the commission, Mrs. Abike Dabirerewa, during a press conference. She recalled that since its launch in 2018, the initiative has provided the diaspora the empowerment to invest resources, expertise and networks into fostering economic growth and creating opportunities for Nigerians back home. The NDIS, she says, serves as a bridge that connects diaspora investors with local entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as startups across various sectors of the Nigerian economy.
So we'll focus on key sectors such as finance, ICT, fintech, creative industries, sports and entertainment, agribusiness, healthcare, education, real estate and infrastructure, as well as manufacturing and mining. The Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit, as we have demonstrated in the last few years, is not a talk show. It's a practical way of attracting investment to Nigeria through the Nigerian diaspora.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is welcoming leaders to Russia ahead of the BRICS summit in Kazan. On Sunday, he welcomed his UAE counterpart Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan for an informal dinner at his residence in Novo Ogayovo. Putin thanked the UAE president for his help in prisoner exchanges with Ukraine and said they will discuss a number of issues in details later, including crisis in the Middle East.
Welcome back. Israelis have been celebrating the demise of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar with parades on the streets. Even the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reacted. On the side of the Arabs, a great leader has passed on. The Israeli army has released newly declassified video, it says, shows the late Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and his family walking through a tunnel in an unknown location hours before the October 7 attacks. The mastermind behind the attack on Israel on October 7 was killed on Wednesday, October 16, in a gunfight with Israeli forces after a year-long manhunt. His death was announced on Thursday, October 17. On Saturday, the IDF released footage showing the final moments of Sinwar before a tank destroyed the building he was hiding in. The location of the footage was verified by the building outlines and Design Match corroborating coverage. During a press conference on Saturday, spokesperson for the Israeli military, Daniel Hagari, said Israel's campaign in Gaza would not end with Sinwar's death, vowing to continue operations.
Killing Sinwar is the result of a year of operational and intelligence efforts to bring him and other Hamas leaders to justice. Sinwar has been eliminated, but our mission is not over. We will not rest until we bring all our hostages home by any means possible, and we will continue to defend the people of Israel from all threats on all of our borders.
His words echo those of the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who said Sinwar's death offered the chance of peace in the Middle East, but warned that the war in Gaza was not over and that Israel would continue until its hostages were returned. His comments were expressed in a recorded video statement. He did acknowledge that Sinwar's death was a terrible blow to evil, but that the task is not yet complete. He promised families of the hostages still in Gaza that Israel would continue full force until the return home of all your loved ones. Israeli ally, the United States, says it's time to move on from Yahya Sinwar's death. U.S. President Joe Biden, commenting on the issue, congratulated Netanyahu on Sinwar's death.
I called Steve Netanyahu to congratulate him on getting Sinwar. He had a lot of blood in his hands. American blood, Israeli blood, and others. And I told him that we were really pleased with his actions, and further that now's the time to move on.
Est marqué par la mort de Yahya Sinwar.
French President Emmanuel Macron described Sinwar's death as a turning point, and that the occasion should be seized upon so that all the hostages can be freed and so that the war can be finally stopped.
Pour que tous les otages puissent être libérés.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told reporters on Thursday Sinwar's death is certainly significantly weakening Hamas.
Sinwar was the leader of a terrorist organization, the terrorist organization of Hamas, and he was basically the mastermind behind the 7th of October with the killings, the massacres, the rapes, and the kidnapping. So his death is certainly significantly weakening Hamas.
And as for the NATO Secretary General,
And then on Sinwar, of course, he is widely recognized as the architect of the 7th of October 2023 terrorist attacks on Israel. I have condemned them, all allies have condemned them, every reasonable soul in the world has condemned them. So if he has died, I personally will not miss him.
in the Israeli town of Sderot, people celebrated Sinwar's killing. And in Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the Israeli communities ravaged by the Hamas attack, it was welcome news.
First of all, it's good news. Good news that enemy of the biggest enemy in the last, decade, maybe, of Israel is finally dead. And with him, a lot of others. So everyone who came on this 7th of October and invaded our kibbutz finally dead. I hope that's good news.
Allahu Akbar.
Meanwhile, Palestinians in Gaza City and Khan Yunis mourned Sinwar's death. One worshipper said his death is proof he was not hiding underground or abroad, but rather fighting with other men on the front line.
Allahu Akbar.
Libyans in the northwestern coastal city of Misrata mourned the late Hamas leader, also during Friday prayers. Sheikh Abdulaziz al-Suwaili said the death of the Hamas chief should not be regarded as a defeat, but fuel to fire and a continuation on the path of jihad to liberate Gaza and Al-Aqsa. On Saturday, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said he wished God's mercy on Yahya Sinwar, declaring he was martyred after the last elected Prime Minister of Palestine. He described him as his brother. He also accused the US, Europe and the UN Security Council of becoming toys in the hand of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Finally, Supreme Leader of Iran Ali Khamenei praised Sinwar in his broadcast speech, calling him the shining face of resistance and struggle. Who was Yahya Sinwar? The 61-year-old Palestinian militant and politician served as the chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau from August 2024 and the leader of the Hamas government in the Gaza Strip from February 2017 until his death in October this year. Here's more.
The Palestinian militant and politician was born in Khan Yunis refugee camp in Egyptian-ruled Gaza in 1962 to a family who had been expelled or fled from Majdal, Ascalon during the 1948 Palestine War. He studied at the Islamic University of Gaza, where he received a bachelor's degree in Arabic studies. In 1989, he received 4 life sentences in Israel for orchestrating the abduction and killing of 2 Israeli soldiers and 4 Palestinians he considered to be collaborators, and spent 22 years in prison until his release, among 1,026 others in the 2011 prisoner exchange for Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. While in prison, Sinwar continued to coordinate the execution of Palestinians suspected of collaboration with Israel and planned the abduction of Israeli soldiers. He was also one of the co-founders of the security apparatus of Hamas. He was elected leader of Hamas in 2017 and claimed to pursue peaceful, popular resistance, supporting the 2018-2019 Gaza border protests. Having been re-elected as Hamas leader in 2021, Sinwar survived an assassination attempt by Israel in the same year. Hamas and the ISS Adin al-Qassam brigades have been designated terrorist organizations by the United States, the European Union, and other countries, and in September of 2015, Sinwar was specifically designated a terrorist by the United States government. The ICC prosecutor Karim Khan announced his intention to apply for an arrest warrant for Sinwar for war crimes and crimes against humanity in May this year as part of the ICC investigation in Palestine. Sinwar was killed on October 16, 2024 by the Israeli military. Sinwar's body was identified by DNA, dental and fingerprint records Israel obtained when he spent years in prison. Drone footage released by the IDF on Thursday appeared to show Sinwar's final moments before he was killed. The footage shows a drone entering the building with blown-out windows and everything covered in dust. The drone flies to a man sitting in a chair. His face is covered. The man picks up what looks like a stick or piece of debris and throws it at the drone. A short while later, the IDF shelled the building.
Joining us now is team lead at Next Year SPD, Dr. Unu Moko. He joins us from the United Kingdom. Dr. Moko, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with what you make of the killing of the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar.
So initially when I heard about it, I thought it was like playing the Russian roulette game. You know, it could swing either way. It might lead to a ceasefire, especially with his deputy championing the ceasefire agreement in Qatar. It can equally lead to more resolve to continue the fight, especially with the over 120 hostages that Hamas is still holding. So it's like playing the Russian roulette. It could go either way, but killing he's being killed is a big blow to Hamas. If you look at his position within the organization. But it's equally interesting to understand that Hamas is an organization with very big resolve. It's not about their capabilities, it's about the resolve they have to continue the fight, and of which each point in time they lose their leaders, they find a way to regenerate forms of new radical leaders that continue to take the organization to greater heights. So it's either way, but let's see how it plans out now.
How important was he to Hamas?
It was important the way he has held the organization for years now. So, and like I said, every terrorist group or every freedom fighting group need to have that kind of a leader with a good resolve that continue to push forward. And that's what he has provided for Hamas. So over the years, Israel knew that he was a big target for them. So for an organization without that level of capacity, having good resolve is what you did. So that even if when you're killed you continue to regenerate, you continue to come back. So that's what he has done for Hamas, especially with what he did last year, being able to mastermind that October 7 attack. So which for them was a big blow for Israel. So for someone who could plan that, especially the way he was able to coordinate their relationship with Iran and so on. So it means that he was somebody who has been able to push and nurture the organization to where they are before his death.
Yeah, what I find with leaders of these terrorist groups is that after their demise, it is very difficult for the group itself to deviate from its original ideology, from its original standpoint. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen with Hamas. You talked about the deputy leader of Hamas, Al-Haya, who is in Qatar. They were supposed to be negotiating a ceasefire, one that the Israeli government has said that Hamas has no interest in. Hamas wants Israel to pull out forces from Gaza. It also, well, its vision and mission, its ideology and standpoint is that Israel no longer exists as a nation. But Al-Haya already has a target on his back with the demise of Yahya Sinwar, meaning that the Israeli forces will eliminate anyone else who leads Hamas. So he's not safe wherever he is, even if he's gone into hiding. But do you think that he will reconsider a ceasefire? Will he also negotiate an end to this war? There were only less than 2,000 people who died on the side of Israel on October 7, but over 42,000 people have died in Gaza as a result of this war.
So interestingly, that's where some of us are beginning to be a bit, I don't want to use the word confused, or trying to look further to ask the question, how do we start resolving this? Because the issue is this: if the deputy leader of Hamas, the current deputy leader, is seen as a weak person, he might even be eliminated by his group. That's good. Now the question now goes back to the Israel, which is, if you see him as someone you can work with, will you allow him to stay? Will you allow him to continue to manage the group, which will be important to them? But now remember that the Israeli Prime Minister is a hardliner and someone who, with his right-wing agenda, he wouldn't want to negotiate and leave anything on the table for the opposition. He will want to put everything in his pocket, meaning that if he goes that hardliner way of trying to make sure that he's going to crush Hamas entirely, probably he goes back to the idea, are you trying to take over the whole of Gaza, right? So, but if everything is on the table in such a way that is about getting back the hostages, which a lot of Israel have been pushing him to say, stop your personal agenda, get the hostages back. If he goes that route, and people will see him that because of the death of Sinwar, that he is trying to be a bit reconciliatory, trying to say, okay, these are our red lines. Don't cross this. But I could allow you to do this, and then start renegotiating. I think it's going to be a 50-50 for everybody, which might be good for Israel and good for Hamas as well. In that case, the deputy leader might be a good person to work with, because in the entire thing is still about returning peace to the region, right? Not only to Israel and Gaza, but returning peace to the region. And it's important if the deputy leader now is found as somebody who is not as hardlining like the other Hamas leaders. It would be good to speak to Israel to say, don't eliminate this. He might be a good person to work with, because if you look at the period when we had Israel, the two-state solution was an idea and was on the table before the assassination of the then Israeli prime minister. If not for that assassination, probably we may not be where we are today, right? So at times when you find a leader who is ready to work with a group that ordinary others won't want to work with, and he's putting things in order, it's important to see that he's safeguarded and things work very well.
It will be interesting to see how things turn out, how he decides to lead the group. But with the U.S. elections coming up in just a couple of weeks, some have said that whoever becomes president of the United States is important to Israel, and that's because the prime minister needs to know who he'll work with. He needs to know he has someone on his side who will support his cause in the Middle East. And a lot of people say that that person is Donald Trump. What do you think?
So let's look at this from a non-partisan basis in terms of where I'm Nigeria. I don't have a dog in the fight, right? If not for the war, or if not for the election, the Democrats will not have supported the government, not Israel, the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the way they've been doing now, right? Because you could see that even apart from the UK, most of the allies and Western countries that are interested in what is happening seems to be not happy with the way Israel have handled a lot of things, especially in the area of humanitarian issues. You know, it has even led to some countries to start recognizing the state of Palestine, which ordinarily they wouldn't have done before. Now, the Democratic Party is on the verge of even losing this election, especially when you go to states like Michigan, where you have a lot of Arab Palestinians and some Arabs who are Democratic Party voters. These are core voters who, come rain, come sun, will always vote the Democratic Party. But most of them are going to stay out. They wouldn't want to vote, which might affect Democratic Party. So to them, they are trying to balance a lot of things. The Democratic Party, or the government in power in the US now, is trying to balance the interest of Jewish Americans and the interest of Arab Americans, right? And is affecting the way they are thinking. Now, for the Republicans, especially the government of for the Republicans, especially for Donald Trump, he's the one who is getting from the entire scenario, because if he goes either way that he wins, he's definitely going to support someone he calls his friend. I mean, the prime minister of Israel, right? Beyond understanding that people are being killed in Gaza by the day, and we need to look at the humanitarian angle. So looking at it, the government of President Biden is really in trouble because of this. And some conspiracy theories have even asked the question, why this 7th October war, that started this whole thing? Was it orchestrated in such a way that it will affect the Democratic Party? There's a lot of theories around why then. There's even a lot of theories. Why has the Prime Minister of Israel maintained this hardline position, knowing that it's going to affect election in the US? So, but like I said, I don't have a dog in the war, so in the fight. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, there were so many questions asked at the beginning of this war, because the Israeli Defense Forces are said to have heightened intelligence. How could they have missed the plans towards October 7? You're right. People suspected that the Prime Minister had an agenda for allowing this to happen with an excuse to going into war in the Middle East and also with the United States. Let's not forget that when Trump was president, he did declare Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which a city which was supposed to be shared between the Israelis and I think the Palestinians. Unfortunately, that has happened. So that's why they also think that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would prefer him as President of the United States. But we have a few weeks to see the results, don't we, of the elections. Dr. Unu Moko, thank you so much for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
This is where we end the program this week. I want to thank you for the responses to last week's edition on the whereabouts and health status of the Cameroonian President Paul Biya. The ban still remains on discussions by media houses, but we're staying on the lookout for updates from Switzerland. Let me know your thoughts on this week's edition. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.